is the second part of the continuation, and we will be discussing whatever we couldn't discuss in yesterday's session. And as we all know, we have discussed whatever in the length we can discuss about the Azure board, Azure pipeline, Azure Repos, Azure test plan, and Azure artifact. So we have tried to with the concept wise, we try to discuss all this aspect of Azure DevOps. Okay, and along with that we try to do a demo of Azure board as well. Okay, and in today's session my focus will be on Azure pipeline and Azure repos, and this I can discuss a little bit about this one because this might not be exactly what this session intended for, but still I can try to cover a little bit about these two as well. Okay, so my focus will be today on Azure pipeline and Azure repos as a second part of the Azure DevOps session today. And if I go to my PPT, this part we have already discussed about what the DevOps is and everything in yesterday, and we have discussed about this thing all with some example and some kind of a layman term to explain everyone. And this is just a small snippet of the con- content which I tried to explain, and we have already discussed about that. So we already know what is DevOps. And yesterday, while explaining, I already explained why everybody is moving, or the why the industry is moving towards the DevOps. The reason is when we talk about the development cycle and when we talk about the operations, so every team and every project and the project management tries to shorten this life cycle and gain more and more productivity. They want to avoid the sleepage or the wastage of time and wastage of money so that productivity can increase, and any product should hit the market as soon as possible. It should not be like that you are starting a work and there is no delivery happening, and you keep on trying to build the product, and your product is hitting to the market and going live after a year or 2 years, and by that time the relevance of the product itself has gone. So that is the main challenge in today's world or today's technology world, where the technologies keep on changing in a very high pace, and unless until you're moving your product to the market on the right time and the right product, you will be out of the market. And if I wanted to give you a live example, I'll come to the today's topic just to make it more relevant why the DevOps is relevant in today's world. If you see about the COVID, so people in just 2 years they move their work from offices to home, right? And let's say if you do not have Zoom, if you do not have Team, if you do not have any other channel where you can do the live streaming and the video streaming of the meetings and the other stuff, then it might be another impossible stuff to let millions of like people and the office people and the all kind of, whether it's IT or non-IT, and different kind of employee to work from home. So in that case, when you are getting this kind of scenario, and if you're not hitting your product to the market when the requirement arises, you are out of the market. You cannot gain the benefit out of that situation. So that is one of the main reason why this DevOps coming into popularity, and main most of the project and most of the big companies is trying to thrive into this area because it's shortening your development life cycle, bringing the product to the market as soon as possible and as quickly as possible. And that is the main thing which we have seen yesterday. If you remember the yesterday session, that's what we are trying to discuss. We have 2 sprint or 3 weeks of a sprint, then we have the code, and then code will hit to the test and pre-prod and production, and as soon as we can go live, we are ready to go live with the minimum product in hand. We cannot wait for whole product to build in a year and then we'll hit to the market. No, whatever delivery or what can be a piece of features we can have the users to allow to use, that we wanted to hit to the market as quickly as possible. And then in parallel, development team and the product team can work on that to enhance and add the additional feature. That is the main aspect of the DevOps, and that is the main reason. That's why many people are getting involved, and many DevOps engineers and DevOps engineers or DevOps developers are getting into this field and trying to make the pipelines and the process automated and robust. Okay, so that was the main reason of DevOps to becoming popular. Okay, and this part yesterday we have seen the boards where we have seen the iterations, then we have seen the sprint planning, or it is kind of a Jira board, right? Or where we have the Azure board. It's a fully functional board. It's not into like pilot mode or review mode. It's a fully functional, and many big companies has already started using the Azure board to handle their project management and their iteration planning and their sprint planning and their PI planning. Okay, and lots of word which I am using like PI planning, sprint planning, iteration planning. Few guys might not be able to catch those words. If you are not, just message me or ask me then and there so that I can explain. I cannot explain all these keywords in like short span of time. That's what I'm not going into details. But the people who already worked into their project and part of their PI planning and sprint planning and the iteration planning, they know what I'm talking about. Okay, but this boards define those features and can play a fully functional agile board, which we can use as a Azure board. Repos we have to see today, pipeline we have to see today, artifacts and test plan I will explain, but we might not see today because this requires lots of additional time to explain in a detail, but I can explain in brief about this too. So let's go and try to see a repos and pipeline. I explained yesterday a bit, and today we can try to do a demo about it. And just to go back yesterday, what we have discussed. So Azure repos we have seen. We have options. Either you can use the Azure repos, which is nothing but your native of Azure, and then this GitLab and GitHub. I'm not sure how many of you are already working on GitHub and GitLab, but my minimum expectation, you guys might have already heard about the GitHub and GitLab, even though you did not get chance to work on the directly onto GitLab or GitHub. But I believe everybody is getting familiarized and getting their hands dirty into this tools and technology. Okay, so we'll see about this today. And just to show you like what we discussed, we have two different kind of code which was part of a sprint one. Then a developer added some more code into that, and then this was my project. And then I will come to see each aspect of repos. I'm coming in a bit, but I'm trying to explain what we have discussed yesterday, right? And if you remember properly, so what I explained yesterday, I have a sprint one which ends on 30th of July. And then I have a 2 weeks of a sprint which will be ending on 14th of August. Okay. And this was a sprint one. Okay. And and this is your sprint two. What is happening in this project? Was having a V version of code, and I was having a where we have a 50 lines of code. Okay. And then in V2, I have a 70 lines of code. Okay. Then what I've discussed, we raise a pull request and merge request. We are going to see that today, what is happening with that. Then what is the expectation? Expectation is in end of the sprint 2, I should have a latest code in my repository so that when the sprint ends, I should check in my code into repository so that it can be utilized and it can be visible by next further of action, either testing or promotions into production environment or pre-production environment or go live. So this is the very standard practice. If you're going into use GitLab or any kind of repository, it's a regular practice. As soon as your work is done, expectation is you have to check in your code, merge it, and make it to the readily available for promotion or further testing or whatever the next step your project is required to do. Okay. Now we discussed about master. So base code we have it in master or main. Okay, main branch. And few places, if you go into Git, it says main. Somewhere it says master, but the term will be almost similar. So if you directly go to Git, it might show you a main or master, one of them, and we will see it both have the similar meaning. So new branch, we will see what do you mean by new branch, and then we will see what is the merge request or pull request. So that's the reason wherever I'm trying to write it. So these are the popular keywords. Most of the tools and most of the companies use that. So either they sell pull request or merge request. We are going to see that what exactly is. Okay, and then what it will do and how it will make the changes. Okay, and the main goal of all this activity was to first my code has to be in some base location or the main location, then any enhancement that has to merge into the master, and end of the merge request or pull request, the latest code, whether any kind of, it might be a Python or it might be SQL or it might be a Teradata BTEC script or stored procedure or a Snowflake stored procedure or queries or DDL or Java, .NET, whatever the code is. But the point is it has to be placed here, okay, into your repository, and end of day it has to be the latest so that it can be utilized into your pipeline promotions or pipeline migration. So there are two purpose of this. One is my code has to be placed some central repository so that it can be visible, it can be utilized for your project or some other project if it is required, and for the continuity of work. Okay, and so that the somebody comes and leaves the company, then you should not be in a state where the others people work who has left the company is not documented and people are getting breaking their head to find the work the other developer did and left the company, right? So that is one point. And second point is it has lots of dependency for making the pipeline automated and making the flow and everything running. So this uh, Azure Repos or any kind of repository is just not for to keep your code safe. It has lots of things on top of this one. Okay, that is if we talk about that. So one is the advantages of this. So one is code base. Okay, then it works as a versioning also. Okay, so any point of time, if you want to, let's say you are promoting a code into production, because of any reason, your code get messed up and you want to do a rollback, right? The people who does the production migrations and part of operations and maintenance team, they know what do you mean by promoting the code manually, and they will always ask you to have a rollback plan. Okay, so what do you mean by migration? Let's say if I say production, prod is nothing but I'm just using a short name as a production. Okay, production migration. So let's say you have production migration, and along with that, okay, along with that, you would have a rollback plan as well. Okay, rollback plan as well. What do you mean by that? So let's say because of any reason your production migration has been not successful, it has failed. Either server was not good, it was did not the pipeline has failed, or it got some extra character or some invalid script, or whatever the reason is, and you are losing the window of promotion. Then you should always have a rollback plan where you roll back your latest code, and then you will use the whatever the previous version which was already into production. With that you will try to roll back fast and promote or bring the code or will bring the application till the last time it was working, something like that. So that's why this repos, whether it's a Git, okay, or it's a Azure repos, it will also have the versioning. Okay, and it will show you the history and everything, what was the code, and you can always bring that version if you wanted to use that. Okay, that is the second thing. So first of all is the code base, and then third thing is um, pipeline. Okay, base for pipeline Okay, pipeline promotion. Okay, pipeline promotion or pipeline build. Okay, something like that. So few other benefits also it has, which kind of a direct or indirect of all these three category. But the overall benefit of the Git is, or the any Azure repos are these things, so that this risk can be taken care. These are the risk and which is getting resolved using the Git or the Azure repos. Okay, let's go back and try to do the real work, okay, in a part of demo. And if I come back here and goes to repos, I will explain all these terms one after the other. Okay, so you can see we have lots of things. So this is repos, and when you try to build, you can build, you can bring or you can sync your Azure repos with the Git, and you can clone that. If we have some clone option, I'm not going into detail with this one, but these are very powerful cloning option, where if you have a already Git repository, if you clone the Git repository to here, we can do that. Okay, or if you want to have any other repository already existing, that also you can do that. So we have all this functionality here. Or if you have this already a working environment, and if you want to clone it to your local and so on, that also you can do. But keeping that aside, we'll try to understand what these terms are. Okay, what do you mean by commit, what do you mean by branch, what do you mean by push tag and pull request and so on, right? And how we can add some files and some folders inside this Azure uh, repos. Okay, so I've already created one. So if you see, I have already created. If you want to create one more, we can create one more. Okay, but we can since I've already created one git repos, I will just live with this one now. And what all things we can do? So we can clone this one from here to my local git or any other repository we want. We can upload some file, create some files. So this is nothing but if you wanted to create a file inside that repo, I can do that, or folder as well. If I have some files already in my local or my into other places, I can upload that. Or if I have all this code, I can download that as a zip as well. Okay, something like that. So we have lots of options coming. Okay, and before going into that, these are like files. Okay, first of all, where these files are present. Repo is nothing but kind of a bucket, right? Where I have a bucket, where I have a master bucket, then I have some other bucket, other branches, right? So before going into file system, I wanted to come and explain what this branch is. Okay, so let's say you see here what is happening. So you see one main branch, you see one demo branch. Okay, so the main branch which I was mentioning, it is nothing but your main copy. Okay, since this is new and I haven't merged anything, okay, so that's why you see this main branch or default branch. But this is your base code repository. Okay, whatever your latest code, it has to be in main branch or master branch. Okay, then on top of that, you can keep on creating an other branches as well. So when I say, okay, this is little tricky and little like if try to like focus more, because this goes fast and it might create lots of confusion for you if you haven't worked before. And I know the very first time it will be always confusing for everyone. Okay, so let me try to explain in a little in layman term. Okay, so let's say what is happening if I have a master branch. Okay, I have a master branch which has, okay, which has latest code, let's say till July 30th, which we are taking the example. I'm trying to take the same example so that at least you can correlate. So let's say I have a master branch, okay, which has the latest code or till 30th of July, whatever the development my team has done, that they already has checked in their code into master branch, and whatever the changes they have done, they have merged or pulled that from different branch into master branch. Okay, so I'll come to that point, what is the pull request and merge request. But understand that this particular master branch has all the latest code till 30th July. Okay, the team has, okay, now there's a new branch. We can create a branch here. Let's create a branch. Okay, I'll say what is the branch name. So you can see I'm trying to create a branch. Let's say the sprint is started. Okay, and this sprint will end on the um, August 14th. Okay, so why I'm trying to talk lots of time the sprint, the reason is this work doesn't happen on ad hoc basis. You can create the branch on ad hoc basis, you can do the ad hoc work with the branches and ad hoc changes all the time. Nobody is stopping you, but as a standard practice and as a standard sprint life cycle, it was always advisable you have a sprint running, then a branch is open for that sprint. When the sprint closes, you close the branch and then you create a new sprint and then you open a new branch so that it can be a talk parallel hand to hand. Otherwise, if you wanted to create a new branch for some other purpose or some ad hoc work, that you can always do. Nobody is stopping you to do that. Okay, but the my purpose of to talk about the sprint and the branch in hand to hand, just to correlate the things. Okay, so let's say we are here, we are in repos. The repo name you can see, if you go and try to see the repo name, this is my repo, okay, which is nothing but your awake git repos. Okay, then I am coming to the branch. Okay, and then here I have a main branch, and then on top of that, I'm trying to do, I'm trying to create a new branch. Okay, so let's create a new branch. We can say um, Azure. Anyway, this is DevOps. I don't have to write the DevOps, or maybe part two, and then we can say maybe it's print to something like that. Okay, and what we are trying to do, we are trying to make it from main. Okay, so let's say we have the main, and you can see here this guy, right? So this is how they are trying to link. Okay, so let's say I'm working on 4 stories, or I'm working on a feature, and somebody wanted to see like this particular branch which I have created. Let's say in a project 5 members are working, and those are working on different stories, and each wanted to create a separate branch for themselves. That is also possible, rather than a um, single branch for a sprint. Okay, so what we can do, we can say this particular branch is for a sprint, or this particular branch for a epic, or this particular branch for a feature also. So this is something additional into Azure um, DevOps. This, if you're working into Git, okay, directly into GitLab or GitHub, this option, unless until you make the connection between Jira and the Git and so on, you will not find this option. But since Azure Repos, which is an advanced version of the DevOps, and since they have integrated everything, so that's why this Azure Repos, it is telling, okay, what kind of branch you're getting and what purpose you're getting, that you can directly attach to your stories or a pick and feature. So this is one of the very cool feature or advanced features or advanced functionality which you will not find into other places, unless until you are exclusively trying to attach that particular feature. Okay, so let's go back here. I'm not attaching this. We can attach anytime, that's fine, but leave it like that. I'm just creating a new branch here. Okay, let's create a new branch. Okay, the branch is created. Okay, so since this particular piece of code which I have already present, like which was already present into master, so that's what it has taken it. Okay, so what we can do, we can try to open it. We can see all this coding and so on, right? And like this is just a snippet of my Python code which I used to take in another session. Okay, so this is, let's say, this is the code. Okay, and so on. Now what we have to do, so this is, if you see here, and let's say come back here in branches. Okay, and let's say we have created this one. Now you can see this guy. Okay, so what we have to do, so this is uh I have created on the 731, right? And now in the next 2 weeks, lots of people will come and lots of developer might come and add or delete some code from here. Okay. So what we can do, let's, and if you see the history of this one, this is just now, because this is we have just pulled from main, correct? There's no other history here, correct? And if I go to main, okay, and if you try to see the history, here also it's just a history. We haven't raised any pull request, but we will see the history in some time. Okay, let's go back to branches again, and let's talk about this guy. Okay, and let's try to edit this little bit. Okay, so I'll go into down. Okay, and what I will do, what is the July, let's say 31st, 31st, and I would say, let's say print welcome to Azure DevOps session, something like that. Okay, what I'm trying to do, I have opened this particular Python script file, which is nothing but into, you can read like this. Okay, we are into here, we are into this particular repos, and like we are into this project, and then we are into this repo, we are into the sprint 2. You can see here where we are, correct? And from here also you can see this is highlighted. So where we are into this project, then we are into this particular repo, we are into this file system, and then we are here. So this way you can read, and this is also highlighted, which says that it is nothing but we are into main is main, because this is the main version. Then we have two separate branches as well, which I have created before just for like fun. And this one I have created. If you want to bookmark, you can bookmark as well. Okay, so like that you can have, let's say 20, 30, 40, and so on branches, and once this is done you can merge or you can delete that. But to understand here, you come here and then you can see the branches tag. I will explain in a little bit, okay, later. But if you understand, we are into this because this is the ticked branch, and we are talking about this one. Okay, that is one thing. Now we are into this repo, we are into this branch, then we are into this file, correct? And we are talking about this file. So this file, we took it from main branch as a base code, and now just now in front of you guys, I have just added a snippet of that. Okay, what will happen? And this is nothing but I have just written a print command in Python. Okay, and once we have to execute, we will execute, or like we can have some meaningful coding as well. Just for the demo, I have just added some print statement here. Okay, so now this is done. Okay, so now what you see, it is highlighted the comment. Okay, so before going what commit is, let me explain a little bit. Okay, so let's say this is my master branch, correct? And what branch we have? So we have this. Let me see if I can copy this one. I don't think so I can copy it. Okay, so new branch. Okay, so new branch, and then what is the new branch name? Azure DevOps, and so on. And then we have sprint 2, something like that we have as a new branch we have just created. Then we have not added, we are modifying the file. Okay, we are modifying the file present in above branch. Okay, above branch. Okay, which we did. This is done. This part we have done the modification. Now what options coming? So if I just do this guy, what options is coming? So option is coming like that, like we have to commit or we can revert back. When we say commit, whatever the changes we have made, it will be captured into this file. Okay, so let's do the commit. So now it will ask the comment what you did. So I will say modified, modified. Okay, okay, this is script, and added print statement, whatever the meaningful comments you can write it, so that if somebody want to see later why what we have added, we can do it. And again the same functionality, you can add the story or effect or feature or task, whatever you want, you can do it. I'm not adding it, but now you can commit this one. Okay, let's commit this. Now what is happening? Okay, let's say we are into files. Okay, but let's go back here. We are into this sprint, or into this particular branch, sprint 2 branch. Okay, now what is happening? So if you go to files, okay, and this one is still, we are into branch. If you go to main branch, okay, let's say if you go to main branch, this was the file uploaded on July 24th, correct, which has having the July 24th code, correct. Same file. If you see the file, this is the same file, exact same file. Okay, and now what is happening? If you go back to your the branch which is just created, which is telling this is just now. Okay, now if you wanted to see the history, what happened, we are telling at like 10:15. Okay, 10:15 p.m. I think this might be PST or something. It's telling we have uploaded this file, and just now we have modified. And if you wanted to see what exactly is, it will tell you what we have added. So we have added this particular thing. Okay, so if you see what we commit, so we have added, and it will, this is very nice. Okay, if you wanted to understand all the green, if you see the very light green, meaning that it has been added. If I go back and try to delete something, it will come as a red. Okay, let's try to do that as well. If I go to files, okay, and we are still into this branch, which is nothing but Azure DevOps part 2 and this one. Okay, and let's try to open this guy, and let's try to edit. Okay, and what we will do, we will just come back here. Okay, and let's try to delete one of them. Okay, so let's say we have some numpy tutorial. Okay, so let's say if I am just removing this w3 school one. Okay, let's delete that. As soon as any changes comes, it will ask you to commit or revert back. I will say commit. Okay, let's commit this one, just to be mindful and remember the things. We are into branch, which is nothing but the name of a sprint 2. We are into this file, and I am committing this because I have just deleted a single line of code. Let's commit this one, and again updated or deleted one of the link. Okay, one of the link from here, commit this one. Now it's committed. Okay, let's go back to files again. Okay, we are here, and now we will try to see this one. Okay, now we'll see the history. Okay, and see. So if you try to compare side by side, or okay, let me see side by side. Okay, and then you will see what happens. Can you see what is happening? This is showing the nothing but the previous changes we have made. So this was present in my main, but this is deleted from here, correct? So that's why, so red is nothing but it is gone, and the previous one what you have seen, this you have seen as a green because it was added just before this previous version. So that's why it is gone. So anything which is little bit of a light like green, it is nothing but you have added something, and then when you see it's like gone, it is little red. So that's what you can see side by side. So these are very powerful like build, or the powerful features they have added here, and even in GitLab or GitHub also, where when I say my tech lead or architect can review, this is what they can review. If they know the project and the code line by line, they can easily say what has been changes, what changes has been made. So this is all about anybody can review and do that. Okay, let's go back. Let's go back to details and everything. Now you can see here post and so on and everything. So let's go back to your files again, and then if you want to see, this is the file we're talking about, this is your sprint, this is the file we are talking about. Let's see the history. What is the history is there? Okay, now we have this one, then we have modified, and then we have deleted. So if you click on this one, right, it still it says, okay, what I was trying to explain, uh, let's see history. Okay, the second point which I was just explaining, it maintains the version, right, correct. So what do you mean by that? My base code was something, I have added some coding into that. That version also I can see. Then in the third or the second version I have deleted. So if we talk about here, okay, so let's say we have the v1 version, which is nothing but base version. V2 we have added something, correct, and v3 we have deleted something, correct. So if you try to see all this history, so this was my very first code and all those things, there was no changes, nothing till here we were having it, right? Okay, if we go to files again, if you try to see the history, and then if you try to see this guy, what it shows, it was added this particular thing which we have added. Go back to files again, go back to history and try to see here what we did. We deleted this part. So this, in the file system, if you want to track through the history and track through the version, it will exactly show you what you did. Okay, then if you go to commit and try to see what was the previous version, what is the previous version, and so on, it will show you the side by side view. Okay, so these are, I am reiterating again, these are very powerful features which will let you, even a small dot, a small comma, or like whatever you change, it will track. It cannot be tracked, and that is the main purpose of that. By mistake or intentionally, somebody cannot just play around these things, because it will always track who did and why they did. Okay, and if it is not commented out properly but still it is visible and your id will be shown, or if we are not using a common id, then who has made this change, okay, that is easily trackable. Okay, that is one thing. Let's go back to here. Okay, so now I'm not sure if you guys have seen this new tab or new function, like new options is coming, create a pull request. As of now, when we have tried to add a single file, that time you guys might not have seen this create a pull request. So what is this pull request is, right? So let's go back here. And you guys might have heard this pull request or merge request before as well when I was explaining repos. That time it was not making much sense, but now it will make sense when I'm trying to explain here. Okay. So we got the code base which is in your master, okay, which was in your master or main. Okay, we have just seen the versioning which is already taken care. Okay, and we will see how once we'll go to use this for pipeline and build, that is a later point of time we will see. Okay, but these two we have seen, correct. Now what I will do, I'll just push this guy a little bit bottom. Okay, now what is happening, I will just ask a simple question. So when I say I have this code here where I have added something and deleted something, so is this already into master or this is still into my branch which I have created? If anybody can answer a simple question in just a, um,
It's in the same branch, Azure DevOps.
Same branch. Yeah.
It's
what do
in
you
the
mean by
branch,
same
but
branch? It is here, or it's already into this changes has been already getting reflected into master or main branch, or it is just local to this branch?
It's a local.
local.
Local to this branch. Okay,
Local.
perfect. That is correct. And for others as well, what I do not know the name who has answered the question, but whoever answered the question, that is absolutely correct answer. So these are just local to here, because this is the way it is designed. Automatically, it cannot get synced to your master. If it is automatically getting synced to the master, then it's a risk, and that risk we don't want to take it. So that's why we have an option to pull request or merge request. So here you see a pull request. When you work into git and so on, you might see a merge request. We say PR or MR in the short form. You might hear this word a lot. People say PR, okay, pull request, or people say MR, okay, merge request. Okay, so now what we will do, so my next task is, we have this code base, we have the version. Now merge, or not merge, actually I use git a lot, so that's what I always okay, so pull now sync the code changes from new branch to master. Okay. And what we can do a little exercise about this one. Okay, so let's see, I have here this particular guy. Okay, what I will do, I'll try to download this guy. Okay, so what I will do, just to showcase even more. Okay, okay, so what I will do, I'll just download this guy. Okay, let me download this one. Okay, so this is downloaded. Okay, and if I just take this guy and okay, I think I might have to okay, I cannot do that. I might have to like unzip it. That's fine. So what I was trying to do, just to trying to show you, this has like this particular branch has the latest code, and the master was having the like old code. That you can see the last changes, and you can trust, or you can like try to do the little demo on your side. But just to make sure, the main has the old code. This you just see the July 24th if you want to remember this guy. Okay, in the main, and if you try to see here, it is just showing the 9 minutes ago. Okay, let's create a pull request. So what the pull request will do, it will just take the changes from here and it will sync with your master branch. That's what we were trying to do it. Okay, so now sync the code changes from new branch to the master. Okay, or main. Let me write it as a main just to avoid the confusion. Okay, let's create a new pull request. Okay, so what we are trying to do, we are telling, okay, title, uh, merge the changes from this particular guy. What is the name of the branch? Okay, something like that, right? Or where I have written somewhere. Okay, never mind, I can write it. Okay, uh, new branch or sprint to branch into main branch. Okay, and description, sync the code into main, something like that. Okay, and here you can see, so if you want to add the reviewer, we have to definitely add, and this will be a minimum requirement which we are used to do the setup. And like I ask my DevOps team to do the setup. In the project setup, we can see minimum two reviewers are required or minimum one reviewers are required. That we can do. For now we can leave it. Okay, but the main point is, we are, if you read how you can read it, right? New pull request, this is the title. What we are telling, we are telling merge this branch into main. You can see that, right? We are telling into main, correct? So here you can see we have these branches. We can use this branch as well, but we did not use this branch. But we are telling use this branch and pull the request into master. Here you can see the main. Okay, so always the pull request, we try to use any of the branch and try to go into main. So that's what it is, like that. Okay, and then we can write a mindful title and the description, so that in later also somebody wants to review and see exactly why they're doing it. And that's the main reason you see this stories and everything. This is very important, so that they should know for what story or what feature you have made these changes and merge into your main or master. For now we are just leaving it. Okay, let's create this guy. Okay, now it's creating, there's no conflict of this one. Okay, and then we'll see that there are lots of approval comes. Okay, we can approve and so on. Let's say we approve this. Okay, so this is approved. Okay, let's wait for some more time. Okay, and then we can say, so there are lots of steps comes when I say create the merge request, it will be merged. Then whoever the approver, it will go for approval. So since I do not have this approver here, so that's what it is not showing. But all this activity which happens, creating the pull request, then who is approver, and approver has some comments, then it will say, okay, you go back and update that in your code, and then again you raise a new pull request, and so on also happens. Okay, so lots of things you will see here. Just for today's demo, and like just to like make it simple, I'm not making it complicated, but lots of things happen here. approver can reject or approver can approve. So let's say he has approved that and I haven't added any approver, but usually you will have one or two approver here. And then can you see mark as a draft, abandon, and so on. So I will say approve this one or complete this one, complete this guy. So what we are telling, can you see this is how beautiful it is? It is telling, okay, merge. Okay, then you are telling here whatever the local branch you have created, and ultimately it's matching to the master. Okay, complete associated work item after merging, and delete this also. So if I just uncheck this one, what will happen? My branch which I have just created, it will be still present, it will be not deleted. But if I say as soon as merge happen or pull happen, you delete this branch as well. I don't want to leave this branch for the further confusion or further purpose, then I can go ahead and delete this branch. But if we wanted to keep this branch and wanted to use for the whole sprint, then I can leave it. So let's say I'm just don't want to delete this one. Okay, and then I say complete merge. Okay, and pull request completed. Okay, no difficulty happened, delete source branch, that is fine, everything gone fine, I believe. Okay, so let's see. So everything okay. Okay, so what is happening, all this process, pull request created, joined as a reviewer, approved the pull request, and now completed the pull request. So all this activity has been completed. Okay, so what you can see here, if you try to see the files, okay, so these thing you can see what happened, correct? So you have seen that this guy has been deleted and this guy has been added. Okay, and then you can see the commits, what happened, modify this guy and this guy. Okay, so now if I try to go back to my branches, okay, so what we have seen so far, we have seen the files where we have one file took it from main, then we have created one use that file, then we have created the branch, we have modified some content, deleted some content, added some content, and then to add that content or add that modification back to the master or the main, we have created the pull request. Okay, let's go back to the branches now. Okay, so we are here. Okay, so let's say we are here now. Okay, even though we should have deleted that, but we haven't deleted. Okay, let's go back again and then try to see the main now. Can you see this is just updated whatever the changes we have seen before? Okay, and it was showing as a 24th of July. Now it's showing like just now. If you see the history, what it says, the file was added that time, then it was like whatever the changes has happened which we have modified, then we have deleted, and finally we have merged. So all history has been tracked here. Okay, even, and you see we are into main branch, we are not into our sprint 2 branch. Okay, so since we have merged that, all the activities which has happened, it will show here. Let's try to see whether whatever the activities we have performed, whether it's showing the latest changes into my code or some issue happened. So let's try to open this guy and let's go down. We should see that changes what we have made. Can you see we have added this guy which was not before, and this we have deleted one, so we have it here. What do you mean by that? Okay, let me go back again here. What do you mean by that? Successfully whatever the code changes we have done it, okay, that particular changes has been synced into main branch or master branch, and this particular branch is good to use for the further usage or for pipeline. Okay, so what I am doing it, these are very simple, like not very simple in the first place to understand, but it's little tricky. But as soon as you try to spend little time here and um, explore this option, you will feel you will feel comfortable. And when you are doing from the UI, it looks simple, but the other thing what most of the guys does that they try to have this particular git setup or Azure setups, Azure DevOps setups in their local. So that's why this you see this clone, right? Then you can write a command like some simple command to pull the request or merge request or sync request and so on, like a CLI command line as well. Okay, so you can have your uh, git bash or git CLI into your local and everything in clone. And then if you are good at using those CLI command or command lines and a git bash, then you can, whatever I did, you can do it from your command line as well. I don't want to go into that today because that will make the things more complicated. At least you can see everything happening visibly, so you can connect to each other. But if you're becoming expert, then you don't have to come here, you can directly play around with your git bash. And how this looks like, I think I should have a git bash, right? This is git bash. I think I might have deleted it. Okay, never mind, I might have it in different laptop. Okay, but you can download the git bash and so on, and you can start playing if you wanted to use the desktop version. Okay, so any questions so far from anyone? If anyone has a small question, they can ask, or I can proceed. Okay.
Yeah, I have one question here.
Yeah.
In content, do we have facility to see the current version with compared to the previous version what we have done? Just wanted to check if the history of files.
Yeah, we have that. Okay. So let's say if you are going it here, so that's what I was showing. So if you wanted to see in the current version, if you wanted to see the main version, where?
Just wanted to compare current version with previous versions. Suppose there are multiple commits happen, three to
Okay.
four, and I wanted to compare current file with the first file which I have been checked in previously in the
Yeah,
current.
so that's like it will always come show you the previous version changes. Okay, if you wanted to see the history here, what you can do, so let's say this was the basic version. Okay, and you can see the lines, let's say number of lines, how many we have till here, suppose something like that, right? And if you wanted to see the changes, okay, let me show you. Let's go back here. Okay, so let's say this is the basic the very first line. Then let's say you have added something, then it will show you after what line you have. Okay, after this commit, correct? And that's why what I was advising it, give a proper mindful comment here, or then you can attach the story and a sprint also, so that if somebody, let's say you have a doubt, if you're working on a code and five different people also working on a code, and you don't want to overwrite somebody code, or somebody should not overwrite your code, then what you have to do, you have to coordinate with your team member. Once you are committing it, then you have to pull the latest changes. Okay, that is another way of doing it, which little bit complicated way, not as complicated, but if you are getting familiar. So let's say you made the changes, but what is happening, your other team member is still working from the main, right? So he doesn't have the changes whatever he has pulled it, right? Then what he has to do, before starting his changes, there's an option of sync, or sync option, where he can pull the latest changes what you have made along with his changes. Then he can start working on the next option. So here you have all the activities happen, you can see it here. But if the on same code five different people are working, then it's not that very difficult, but you have to do little coordination between yourself.
Yeah.
And answer to your question, let's say you have this guy here. Okay, let's go back again. And if you wanted not here, let's go back and check the history. And then if you wanted to see what are the changed after that, you can see there again. And then again, if you wanted to see the final version, so final version, you will show something like that. But uh, how you want to make it, let's say if you want to say version 1 or version 2 or version 3 and so on, if you want to come with some naming convention, then accordingly you can do it as well. Here I have not mentioned as a v2 version or v3 and v4 version. Very less people does that. But if you wanted to maintain, okay, this is my primary version, then v2 and v3 and so on, that also you can do it. And then you should have a, but it will always show in the sequential manner with the changes.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is about the repos. Okay, and tags are just tagging it. Okay, so let's say if you want to have the code, this is important for migration. So let's say you wanted to, it's not that much holding anything with this, but what is happening if you want to tag some piece of code or some repository. Okay, this is I'm trying to migrate it into prod or pre-prod. Then you can say, okay, this is release 1.10 tag or something. You can create a tag. Okay, let's say if you want to create a tag, then it will ask you what you want to do. So let's say if I say release one, okay, release one underscore zero underscore one, and then you say this is so this tag can be used for sprint to uh, prod migration. Okay, so what it will do, this will also hold your complete repository, complete repository code and everything. And this will be, this code can be, or this tag can be utilized for your promotions into QA or prod, pre-prod or prod, something like that. If you want to create, you can create it. And this will also have the your code, exact code. Okay, so this tag is nothing but just for the promotion purpose or migration purpose, you can create the tag. Okay, so we have seen the files, we have seen the commits, how it works, because we have committed what commits has happened as of now. This shows pushes, we don't have to worry much about that. Whatever the things happen, it will just say what push code you have pushed it, right? So you were asking what code we have pushed, so it will show you what all things has been changed. So it will show you the pushes. Okay, and then branch we have seen in detail what kind of branch and how it works. And then tag we have just seen, and pull request we have seen where we have, it's not now. So let's say active or completed, so we have just completed one pull request which shows here. And if you want to have some active pull request which is not committed and everything, you can see that. But if you see the completed, it is like just we did like maybe 10 minutes back. Okay, so the next thing is we have to see a little bit about the pipeline. And a pipeline, what I did intentionally, I haven't like built everything for you guys so that you see what the problem comes, but I can explain the whole pipeline thing, and then we can see what challenges come. Okay, so that you understand there are some prerequisite. Otherwise I just show you, okay, this is the pipeline and this works, and it just goes from here to here and promote the code. That may not that helpful, rather than you understand where all the error comes. Okay, so I have the previous pipeline which I have already deleted because I don't want to keep it. And Azure sometimes charges the money if I have those servers active, because with the pipeline I have to promote the code from the Azure Repos to the any of the virtual machines, and then I have to promote that. I can use that as a dev or QA and prod. So I just go and delete those virtual machines. Okay, so that it doesn't cost me. It used to cost me sometime when I leave it like that. So that's what I have deleted those. And for today's session, we'll try to see some of them. So before starting the pipeline, let's go and try to see the pipeline a little bit in a theory, I believe, or maybe concept. Just give me a moment. I'm just taking little water. Okay, so this all we have covered. We have covered in detail, and Azure board we have covered, and how we can create this bugs, features, and story. Azure repos also just we have completed in detail, and what is the Git and so on. And just to like, if you wanted to create a little bit of GitHub and so on, I have given the link. I haven't covered it because it might deviate the today's session. So that's what. But if you want to play around with the Git and so on, I have given the instructions, and I have attached how you can create a Git repository, and you can link with your Azure repos. Okay, that also you can do. And this is all what we have just discussed so far. Like we have this branch and so on, and how we can do it. Okay. Okay, so let's talk about the pipeline now. Okay, so as we were discussing in the last session, okay, so pipeline is nothing but, and we call it as a CI/CD pipeline, which is nothing but your continuous integration and continuous deployment. What it will try to do, so since we have already this code base, right? So we have already this code base, and my changes are already from my uh, local branch to main branch. And what we did, we just added and deleted some into my code, and we are now, what is the next work of that? So that's what we have seen, right? So these are few. Okay, but this git or the Azure repos is not just for versioning and maintaining the code. It is used for your code base, for promoting your code from your dev to QA or test environment and pre-prod and prod. That's why this uh, Azure repos or Git can be utilized to promote your code into next environment as well. Okay, so let's say we have this code which we were building into dev, and the code is been synced into your Azure repos. Then we are planning to promote it into QA and pre-prod and prod. Okay, and then we will try to see how it can be used. Okay, so let's go back here. So what you see here, okay, if you see here pipeline, so there are a couple of things. Okay, so first of all, we have to build it. What do you mean by build? And if I try to show you this guy, okay, so when we talk about pipeline, so first of all, we have a code, correct? So I have a code in my repository, then I have to create a build. And people who are working in Java and .NET and programming language, they know what you mean by build. So build is nothing but a package or package created so that it can be used to deploy, correct? So it is nothing but a zip folder or kind of a 10 or 20 different files, or 10 or different script that you can create in a build form, and then that build can be used to promote the code into next environment. Okay, let's go back and try to set up a build. Okay, this might work, this might not work because I haven't set it up properly. Okay, let's try to create. So it asks what kind of build you wanted to create and how you wanted to create. So we have lots of different options here. Okay, if you go here, so first of all, it will connect and configure and so on. So let's see more. So you can configure your pipeline. Before that, you have to create a build. Okay, and we have a tons of options. What should be your template? Okay, so let's say you have, whether it's a Python package or whether it's any pipe starter pipeline, or what kind of pipeline you wanted to use and what not. Okay, so all kind of whatever the possible thing they have given here. Okay, and if it is not here, still we can try to uh, play around and still make it working, but most of the popular configuration for the pipeline, it is given here. Okay, so let's talk about, we are talking about this guy. Okay, so as soon as you say, okay, I have to create a pipeline and build, what happens? I think Mrigank asked in the very first in the beginning of the session, whether it's any language it has or not. So I mentioned that there's no such language, but we use the YAML on all the migrations or pipeline. They use the YAML options or YAML kind of language, where you have to define what kind of server you have, what kind of memory you have, what kind of host you have, and then define all those things, and then it can be utilized for your promotion. So I think in the last session, somebody has asked me, let's say they have two or three different servers, how they'll promote it, right? That was the question it was asked in last session. So those things exactly you have to define, and this is a very short list. Let's say we are talking about trigger, and then you're talking about what is the image where you wanted to migrate your code. Okay, so let's say we are choosing like this Python package where I want to use my code base and promote it into, let's say, into a different server or Ubuntu server. It can be Linux server, it can be a Windows server, whatever you want to choose, you can choose. Then what kind of Python version I have, then what kind of steps I have to say, and then here I have to mention all the server details. It is not mentioned because this is just a template, but what should be the Python version, and what should be the host name, and what are the connection detail it has, and all those has to happen here. Okay, just mentioning here it will not work. Okay, what you have to do, you have to have the connection set up between your Azure DevOps and the Python server. So what you have to do, I'll come to that point, but there's an option where you have to create a connection details, and you have to write those connection details, which will now start talking between your Azure repos or Azure DevOps to the whatever the server you have created. Otherwise, if these two entities or these two resources are not able to talk to each other, the code promotion cannot happen, right? So this YAML file, all these details are very important as a part of pipeline, where you create a pipeline and then you say, okay, this particular server will go from dev to test, test to prod to prod queue, and so on. Okay, so let's just try to save and run. It might fail. Let's see, and you will see what is the reason of failure. Okay, just trying to run it. Okay, so can you see this guy? And the reason it has failed, because I haven't created any server. Okay, whatever the Ubuntu server I was talking about, and whatever the Linux server or whatever the Windows server you want to use, that it's telling while creating the pipeline or the configuration item you want to create it, there's no host available. Since there's no host available where you want to set it up, right? That is the very primary requirement. So what it is telling you, go ahead and create your free version of the host and so on. That we can do. There are lots of videos which I can like share with you, or like it is step by step video, but that is not the purpose of this class, because it will go into a complete details. Okay, the what main point is, let's say if I say pipeline, so what is the requirement? First of all, I need a server where I can promote my code. Okay, I have a code in my repo which I can take as a code base. Then I'll create a pipeline. Before creating the pipeline, I have to have the servers, or I have to have the target where I want to promote the code. So that's what it started crying. The reason is I haven't configured those things. So before working or start working on the pipeline, you should have lots of things to be taken care. Okay, and most of the places when you see any videos, YouTube and so on, what they do, they try to just simply say, okay, this is my all the prerequisites are done, and they just simply create a pipeline and showcase you, okay, this is how the code will promote. No, it will not happen like that unless until you have prerequisites defined, and that is the main purpose of this reason I'm getting this failed. So that you understand, lots of prerequisites you have to do it before, so that you can take care of that, and then only you can have a successful parallel pipeline or pipeline. You can configure it and promote the code from one environment or local to other. Okay, there's a free version of that, but what happens as soon as you buy any virtual machines and anything from here, it will move from your Azure DevOps to actual Azure cloud. Okay, so let's say if I go to this cloud, okay, if I just try to click on this one, it will show all this thing that you do not have this parallel or any of the machines available where you want to promote and so on, right? So what happens, let's say if I try to build all these options and try to configure a virtual machine, you will see a Azure cloud, okay, which is nothing but this is my website, this is my Active Directory, where I try to have all those resource groups and virtual machines and everything. So here, what you have to do, you have to come here, you have to create a resource group, you have to create your subscription, and then you have to have your virtual machine. That virtual machine you can add it here, and then you can try to configure again. And then if still not working, then you have to enable the connectivity between private and public and so on. Then what will happen? So just to give you a little idea what I'm talking about, okay, Azure, okay, DevOps is, let's say, one entity, okay, entity one, okay, and now your target entity, right? Target entity, let's say you are using the any on-prem server, okay, on-prem server or cloud server, okay. Okay, so this cloud server can be anything, Azure or AWS or GCP. Okay, so what the point is, I have my code into my Azure DevOps, correct? Just like that, in the fly, it cannot move to the servers which I am trying to treat them as a, let's say, QA or pre-prod or prod, right? I have to first define all the server details, right? First of all, I have to have this, whether it's a virtual machine or whether it's a EC2 instances or it's an on-prem JBoss server or any other on-prem server. First of all, I need to find those server details, correct? If it is Azure, then it can be a virtual machine. If it is a AWS, then it's a EC2 instances or EBS and so on, like other like Java related versions and the .NET related version. I have to have it correct. First, I have to define that. I have to provision that. Then I need to get all those details, right? Once I get all those details, then I have to have a connection between Azure DevOps and the other entity or other target server which I'm trying to do it. So how it happens is, if you go to project settings, okay, let's go to project settings. What you have to do, you have to have this project configuration. Then you have to have this agent pool defined here currently like that, and then like all those settings you have to do, and then how it will work. And then where, let's see, not team configuration, release retention, team test management, okay, service connection, yeah. So this guy, what you have to do, you have to have a service connection between your Azure DevOps and this one. So if you try to create a service creation, it will ask you which one you want to use as a source and which one you want to use as a target. Okay, so in the last project, what I was trying to do, that was really typical. From Azure DevOps, my code has to go to AWS Cloud and my code has to go to a Snowflake. Then I have to create a separate service connection, which is nothing but which I'm talking about here. So this is my entity one. Okay, let's say if I have an entity two, okay, which is nothing but AWS. Okay, I have a entity three, which is nothing but, let's say, Snowflake database. Okay, so what my point is, my code is here. I have to send my code into AWS cloud, then I have to send my code into Snowflake data warehouse as well, right? So unless until this guy and this guy and this guy is connected to each other, I cannot promote my code, correct? And that is the bare minimum requirement to set up the connection. So first I have to have this all this setup done. Once this setup is done and this particular entities and target are up and running, when the connection between my this guy and this guy is all done, then only if I try to build the pipeline, then pipeline will pull the code from my build and then it will try to promote it. But still there are lots of chances it might fail. The reason why it might fail is because, let's say if I go back to pipeline, okay, here why it's failing, because this is not the connection has set up. That is the very first requirement is failing. Now what will happen if I go back here and try to see all this information? So let's say click here, then here it's filling because of this, and then build has been itself is not created, correct? Now let's say build has created, but the version of Python or the server details and the connectivity details and maybe whatever the code it has trying to do, so lots of reason it can fail in between. So unless until all those prerequisite has been taken care and your pipeline is up and running, you are not able to promote your code from your get to next QA or pre-prod and prod. Okay. So in the last session, the question was asked, who maintains this pipeline? Okay. So not recently, couple of years back when I was building for one of the project, okay, I build all this pipeline from Azure DevOps to AWS and Snowflake. And believe me, it might take maybe 2 months or 1.5 months for me, even though my work was not exactly for that. I was doing the architect work, but since nobody was there, I just took that work to set it up. Once I set it up, still I talk to those people, and from last 2 and 3 years, hardly lots of changes happen. So once you have the pipeline built and all these things has to be taken care accordingly, then it's a very minimal operational requirement to maintain that. Once it is built and up and running, you might have to add little enhancement and so on, but it's not lots of work. When it has been built, the pipeline is up and running. So the point is, once the pipeline is up and running, the maintenance is very less, but lots of things you have to take care before you build the pipeline. Okay, and then once you try to build the pipeline, let's say we are trying to create a pipeline. Okay, then it will ask you how you where what is your code base. Okay, so let's say if I say this guy. Okay, and then if I take this guy. Okay, let's take this guy. Okay, so just now we did that, but it will ask you for other connections and so on. And what I was trying to see. Okay, so let's say this is another deployment group also, where you want to have like which all places you want to do it and so on. So this like few other aspect of that, where you have to add your deployment group, and then this people who are part of this deployment group, they only can do it, and other people do not have access, then you can add them and so on. Okay, let's say the release. Okay, this is another part of that. And environment, you can add it in which environment you want to go ahead and add. And pipeline, let me see if anything else if I can show you. Okay, that is the all. This is this and get. Okay, yeah, so these are prerequisite. Okay, and then you can play around with this one. Okay, and this is initially it might be a little tough, but it's not as tough that you cannot make it working. Okay, so with that, I think I covered this part. Okay, what I will do, this part I'll just try to explain a little bit directly from here. Okay, let's say the test plan. Yesterday we have discussed about this one. Okay, so this is like exactly what we were discussing. Okay, so this is for your testing, and if you want to attach your Azure board with the stories and so on. Okay, if we try to see this guy as well. Okay, let's say if I go to here, and if you want to create this test plan and everything, you can see here. Let's say you have a one test case suite, and if you want to, let's say if I go here and try to create a test plan. Okay, then what you have to do, you have to have the test plan created. Okay, and then you have to attach your stories with the test plan. And with that, if you wanted to, how we were seeing into our code repo, similar way with the test plan also, you can say okay, this particular test case and this particular test plan is attached to this story, and once you run that, either you can mark it to fail or pass and so on and so forth. Okay, so I'm not going into this one because this is not that useful for like Azure like a demo session, because this might deviate from the actual discussion. Okay, the artifact, it is nothing but like whatever the build we have created, and if you want to have those like artifacts either as a Python or PySpark or Java codes and so on, you can have it here, and you can create these feeds and everything. So these two are just newly, not newly added, but people have started using that, so that's what I'm not going into that. Otherwise it might like not confuse, but it's not that important to discuss in today's session. So, but main important point is these three: board and repos and pipelines, which we have discussed in details. And let me see if I have anything else to discuss, or I can go for Q&A session. Okay, so I think with that, I think we have covered whatever the requirement to cover as a part of today's session. So if anyone has any question, you can ask, or if you have any more doubt or any more, let's say if you're trying to create the pipeline, if you have get stuck somewhere, if you want my help, you can always mail me or